It's drilled to left field. Is it high enough? See ya! A walk-off grand slam, and the Yankees win.
And he drives one to right field over toward the line. Long run for Laureano, and he runs it, and the Mets win the ball game.
Episode 63 of the Boroughs. Kevin Buck, Michael Merlo coming to you weekdays, talking baseball here. Yankees, Mets, big series this past weekend. A lot of news to unpack. With that, we have a lot of different stuff we want to go over today. Should be a long show. Around the league, Nationals fired Martinez and Rizzo. We'll touch on that for a second. A few other things around the league, maybe All-Star Game stuff. We're going to do Juan Soto, Who'd You Rather, later on in this show. Easily the biggest All-Star snub of the season this year among a large group of snubs. But, Mike, Subway Series, you get 2 out of 3. Yankees and Mets split the season series. Got to be feeling a lot better today than you were last week, even though the Mets still, I think, have to show a little bit more. But you got to be feeling a lot better today.
Yeah, you feel good, especially with the guys they had thrown out there this week, especially over the weekend. You're able to get 2 out of 3. You took 2 out of 3 from the Brewers a couple of days prior. So definitely feeling a lot better. And now you just got to finish this break. You're getting reinforcements back. Finish the first half. Get to the All-Star break, and hopefully still feeling good.
Yep. All right. We'll talk Mets in a little bit, though. We have news on the Yankees this morning. Talking Yanks, sat down with Aaron Boone, and he said Jazz Chisholm's moving back to second base tonight, which, I mean, there's just so many angles to look at this and unpack it, but it sums up this just incompetence that the organization sometimes has, because you have a guy who's one of the better second basemen in all of baseball defensively. Offensively, he's the second best second baseman in the league, so it just makes sense to play him there. We find out after he makes a million errors the last month at third, he can't throw. We found that out on Saturday or Sunday morning, and he sat Sunday, and now he's finally back to second base. And during that entire time, you had DJ LeMahieu playing an awful second base while Jazz Chisholm played an awful third base. You had Peraza playing a good third base the days that Chisholm was off. It just made absolutely no sense. And now that it is completely imploded on the Yankees, they finally make the right change, which was always an easy one.
Yeah, and I wonder where these decisions come from. You know, I talked about it yesterday on Mic'd Up, where I just was confused. Like, I don't know where the power structure lies in terms of who's writing the lineup on a day-to-day basis. And I really sided, I'm starting to lean towards the fact that a decision like that is probably a Cashman decision. Having Chisholm at second, having Chisholm at third is a Cashman decision. I find it really hard to believe that Aaron Boone, a baseball guy, a baseball lifer, would be playing this guy out of position when it is so clearly obvious that he should be at second.
And it just feels like Cashman made the call to try and fit the roster better defensively on the field. He wanted to get LeMahieu in. LeMahieu probably can't play third at all anymore. So you wanted to get him at second. You wanted to try and make that work. Jazz played a good enough third base at the end of last season after the deadline to give you some confidence that he could play there. But in the offseason, Cashman signs or Cashman lets Gleyber Torres go, and he doubles down on Jazz Chisholm's our second baseman. And they didn't add a third baseman to the roster, so they were sitting here in the beginning stages of a season with terrible infield layout, no surprise, awful left side of the infield with Volpe and Jazz, and then you're giving a bad second baseman to that side of the field too, not helping anybody out by doing it. They finally make the right move back, and now I think it ramps up even more the idea that they're going to pursue a third baseman at the deadline if that wasn't already a guarantee.
I just wonder who they're going to grab, though. Is it going to be Ryan McMahon, who's been terrible offensively for about a year or two now? It's going to be Cabrian Hayes, who can't hit unless he's playing the Mets. I mean, who is it going to be? Who is that guy that's going to play third base? Granted, defense is important there. It's one of the more important positions. But, who are you going to grab that's going to be a serious impact player other than Suarez in Arizona? Who's going to be that guy?
I think it's going to be McMahon. If you had to, gun to my head, who do the Yankees acquire at the deadline to play third base? I think Ryan McMahon's the most likely, because the Yankees are going to look at it and say this. And I'm not saying I agree with all these points, but this is how they're going to justify it. Is number one, they see the upside from the hitter he was 2 years ago in the first half or a year ago even in the first half, and they say we could try to unlock some of that. You get a great defender. That definitely is something you can't argue. It's a really great defensive third baseman. But I think they also are going to like the years of control that they have because you got that contract extension. So you have him for the next couple of years at $12 million or less. And you're going to say this is the perfect bridge to George Lombard. And I don't like that method of thinking, but I think that's the justification the organization will give you if and when I think they do get Ryan McMahon. He makes a lot of sense for them in those bullet points, but I also think Suarez might be a rich overpay for a team that is probably understanding they're not re-signing him in the offseason.
I mean, this guy, McMahon, has never had a season where his OPS plus was league average 100. His OPS this year is 691. He's hitting 213. He currently leads the league in strikeouts. I mean, I understand the defense and the glove is great. I completely understand that. He's a wizard at third base. But how much of an upgrade offensively are you getting here? And how much do you actually think you can unlock? I think that's a risk. I don't know how much it's going to cost. It probably doesn't cost much to grab him, but it still feels like some sort of risk there.
Absolutely, there is. And we're going to be sitting here, if that's what happened in the end of September, saying, man, they just never got any offensive production from third base this year because we're going to call Chisholm the second baseman, and you're going to say you never got any offensive production from third base because the two best third basemen you fielded all year were probably Ryan McMahon and Oswald Peraza. And that's just awful offensive production. And Oswaldo Cabrera you could throw into with the gruesome injury early in the season. But yeah, this just makes the most sense, I think, based on what Cashman does, because now the Yankees are at a point too where no one's had worse injury luck starting pitching in the league. It's not even close. And they are going to have to add 3 or 4 arms at this deadline, bullpen included, to actually feel serious about their chances of getting through the American League and making a run at the division in the second half of the year.
Yeah, Boone says Heel is going to make a rehab start this Sunday. So, I mean, you're still looking at close to a month before he's back, considering he hasn't had a spring training yet. So think a month for spring training, so he's still a ways away. Obviously, Schmidt is gone for the year, probably gone for next season too. That's a really tough loss. They're probably going to have to add one more middle of the rotation guy that you feel good about that possibly has to make postseason starts.
And you're going to see what you get tomorrow too with this kid Cam Schlittler, because he is your second best pitching prospect. He's had a nice year, and he's going to have to give you some confidence in order for him to stay up, because the statuses of your other starting pitchers, even Heel, we talk about this all the time with Minaya and Heel this year. How much do you actually expect to get from them once they're able to hit the field? You cannot bank on these guys being the pitchers they were last year, because you said it just now. They haven't had a spring training. They haven't had that time to hit the runway and really figure things out on the year. And it's tough for guys to just get hot at the All-Star break or afterwards when you haven't pitched since he hasn't pitched since October.
And then you look at Rodon, who you just in a big spot. I don't know how you could trust this guy. I mean, there's any big spot. And even if it's a regular season game, when you're on a 5-game losing streak at Citi Field, or you're playing the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium in a regular season game, how in the world could you trust this guy? I mean, he just folds in almost every big spot. Every big spot this guy folds. So in a postseason game, we're going to sit here and we're going to trust that we're going to get a big-time outing from him?
No, never. I'll never trust that I get a big outing from Rodon. You just can't, because he hasn't given you anything with the track record.
Fried, when you need a game, Fried's there. Fried's got you.
Because even on Sunday, and I think Fried's last 3 or 4 starts, he hasn't looked incredibly sharp, but he still gives you the 5 or 6 innings of quality baseball. And you never get that from Rodon. When he's either 6-7 innings of 1 run or less and just absolute lights. But when he's not on, it's a complete meltdown.
Yes, and with Fried the other day, the Mets worked the count, but he was still very sharp, got in and out of jams, and he gave you more than a good enough chance to win that ball game. More than a good enough of a chance.
And he got out of that, I think it was the 3rd or 4th inning where they had men on base and Soto and Alonso came up and he got both of them. That's just the difference between Fried and Rodon. And you can't trust Rodon to do that in a big game because let's be real, Soto and Alonso are a pretty good simulator in a high pressure spot on Sunday of what Max Fried is going to feel like in big games in September and October. Those are the two best. That's the best pair of hitters you'll face in a must-win game all season long with an inning about to implode, or are you going to shut these guys down? And he's able to get them both out. Side note, before I forget, umpiring this weekend, home plate umpiring this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday was a disaster.
Awful. It was bad. It was really bad. I don't know if you saw the Phillies game last night. Did you see
I saw a
this in the
couple
Phillies
clips
game?
of it. I didn't see any overall numbers from it.
Listen, it screwed the Phillies big time, so I'm not going to sit here and cry for them, but it was brutal. The Phillies got screwed so badly last night. Unreal.
Yeah. Sorry, Phils. Mets are cheating at home, so.
Phil Cuzzy, yeah, the Mets are cheating, but Phil Cuzzy's a Mets spy, and he actually works for the team, and he was screwing you guys last night.
That's what happened. That's exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
But yeah, bad umpiring. Good for Mendoza getting tossed on Sunday in a game that he probably knew was over at that point. Terens takes.
Mendoza knew the game was over the second the first pitch was thrown.
Yeah, I know, but he did a good job of getting tossed, getting his money's worth right away, and moving on, because that was egregious.
Did you not think to yourself when he threw Stanek and Diaz on Saturday that he thought they had no chance of winning the game?
Yeah, you don't throw Diaz. Otherwise, Stanek, I didn't think it until Diaz came out. Stanek would have made a little bit of sense to me.
Diaz, maybe in the ninth, yeah.
Yeah, Diaz was when I knew, like, okay, he's all in on guaranteeing this game gets shut down, and Diaz gets some work this weekend.
He's like, we are not winning tomorrow. There's no chance we are winning tomorrow.
It was one of those, if we win tomorrow, that's freaking awesome. If we lose, so what? We won the series. We won 4 straight. We feel good about it, and we have a day off.
I mean, unbelievable. Because I'm sitting there the morning of, I'm like, okay, how are we going to get through this game? So Davinsky's going to start. Great. Best case, 2 innings. Then you go to Zach Pop or Brandon Waddell. And I'm pretty sure Judge hit the homer against Waddell. It's just, I was like, what is going on? What is happening?
And then I thought Judge on Sunday got that second one too.
So did I.
That sack fly. I was shocked that didn't get out.
Well, you know, this is a real ballpark. It's called
that left center field is so soft. 371. That is the softest left center field in Major League Baseball.
So many homers over there.
So many home runs.
That was the big thing when Soto signed with the Mets. Everybody was like, "Oh, he's going to hit so many less home runs." And you look at Yankee Stadium. That left center field is deep. That's deep to the left center field. Not at Citi Field. He's hit a few over there, and he's done it already.
Well, Luke Voit was in the 2020 season home run king. So we could look back at Luke Voit as I know that was the asterisk.
Okay.
But he was a really good home run hitter on the Yankees, and he said once he left to go to San Diego, he's like, hitting the Yankee Stadium actually sucks if you don't hit it to right field because going to left center or center is just brutal. And Soto had a lot of those last year where he had flyouts to the warning track, left center, center field. Judge hits a lot of those, and it's just, different dimensions. But while we're talking Subway Series, what'd you think of the Soto bunt on Saturday? Obviously worked out.
Yeah, it's weird. Very weird. I don't love it. It worked out, so I can't freak out. But when I had heard, I was on a boat and we put the game on a little late. So somebody says, I walked over late and somebody says to me, they're like, Soto just bunted. I was like, what?
Do you think that was a Mendoza? Was that a Mendoza call or a Soto call, right? Definitely a Soto call.
Mendoza is not sending Soto up there to bunt. That is Soto like, okay, I think I can get this down and move a guy over or something.
That was weird.
Really weird.
Really weird because I understand you want to try to play with a lead right away. And it was actually a really good bunt.
It was
a great bunt. I thought when that first got down, I was like, that is a freaking hit. There's no way Rodon or / Wells gets this out. But they did. But then next pitch is gone. But
how about Sunday? After all these, miscues in the field with the Yankees, you got Marte laying it down first pitch
Yeah.
of Sunday's game, and Fried, who's great off the mound, he's won a Gold Glove or two, and he misplays it. And I'm like, is this going to be another one of those days? It's like, is this really going to be another one of those days here?
You get bailed by a couple of great defensive plays. Bellinger, Goldschmidt, Judge, just game-saving plays all over. And you don't think that Bellinger play was as incredible as I do. I thought that play was incredible. Like one of the greatest plays ever made by a left fielder.
That is crazy.
I don't think it is.
Great. It was a great play. It was. It really was a great play. I mean, ball hit the ground, but I thought it was a great play. But either way, I'm kidding. I don't think the ball hit the ground. I did at first.
I just processed that.
At first, I actually thought what happened was while the ball was in the glove, I thought it skimmed the ground.
Okay, yeah.
So like ball in glove, and then he kind of opened it a little bit, and I thought as he was doing that, the ball scraped the ground. But when I looked at it for real, it was a catch. It was a great play.
The throw, the ability to actually immediately make that throw.
That was not one of the greatest plays I've ever seen a left fielder make.
That throw was ridiculous.
He wasn't that deep in the outfield.
Do you see the tweet, viral Yankee Twitter tweet that says, "I can't believe Cody Bellinger throws to first from left field better than Volpe throws to first from shortstop."
Hey, don't say that too loud. Volpe's dad might come knocking on your door.
Yeah, what'd you think of that? I wanted to bring that up too. Because the problem with that video, though, is there's no precursor. Like, I don't know what they said about Volpe.
It was probably the kid. You see the kid.
It looked like it was the kid.
And dad defending his son against Volpe's dad is probably what it was.
And, like, I have no idea anything about Volpe's family. So I hate to even, like, speculate anything because this is when we get to the human element of the players, but he looked like he was a few drinks in.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't
know either, but he looked like he was maybe having a good day at the park. Someone said something about his son and he snapped.
No, I think he's been feeling it. I think the family's probably been feeling the heat now.
That's a lot.
For a while.
Yeah.
Your son's the shortstop of the Yankees, man. Grew up a Yankee fan and he is struggling like really no other athlete in this city right now.
And I mean, as much as you wanted to be like, oh, we tune out the noise, you hear it. You
can't. And when you're at the game, I mean, if you're listen, fans are going to talk crap, right? Like they are, so like for Volpe's dad to really freak out about a fan talking crap in the stands. Like, what do you think happens in the stands? If you don't want to hear it, then don't sit in the freaking stands.
You're on the road, too. You're on the road at the rivalry. And so I think that the parents, I know it's not always possible. The parents should be in a luxury suite or in some sort of a suite where they're not really exposed to that because you're going to hear that stuff at Yankee Stadium, too. Yeah. And whatever that kid said, you're going to hear at Yankee Stadium, too.
When he makes a bad error, and it cost them a run, you're going to hear a lot worse than what the Met fan said.
Yeah, and you look at his season. He's not hitting. He's not fielding. He's not running the bases well. So it is a tough moment to be Anthony Volpe's dad, who is a Yankee fan for his entire life, and this was their dream, was their son playing shortstop for the Yankees, and it really just has not been what anybody hoped it was.
Yeah, it's not working out.
And it stinks because that is the element of this with Volpe that gets him all the defenders and everything is he does seem like a really solid guy.
Yeah.
And just a really normal, humble, regular person. And it was his dream to be a Yankee. And now it's just been a disaster.
Except when he's chucking balls at Judge's face.
That was, dude, like
insane.
Most accurate throw he makes all season is in between innings at Judge's eyeball. Oh.
Doesn't affect him though.
Because for Volpe, that's just how the year's going.
Yeah,
that's how this tenure is going. That's rough.
Your guy Cutter is King had a nice Photoshop yesterday. Did you see it?
Oh yeah, I muted almost all Red Sox Twitter because I got to a point where I was like on Boston Twitter, which was fun for a few days, and then I was like, I need to get back to what I like to look at.
Yeah. They had Anthony Volpe as a Savannah Banana. Yeah, which was good. And somebody said he probably isn't good enough to play for them. But either way, look at the Sox. Sox are back. That division, man. I think I came on here. I was telling my friends that are Yankee fans, I'm like, what's it like to have a division wrapped up? Just like,
Well,
no,
we both
no
said it
worries.
on here. Yeah, we both said it on here.
No worries. Like, the division's done. This race is going to be something else. This is going to be an interesting race in the AL East. And I don't think the Blue Jays win it. I'll say that. I don't think the Blue Jays are going to be the team. I actually side with Michael Kay, who's having, little wars with Canada over there. I agree with Kay on basically everything he said about the Blue Jays, actually.
Funny enough, I think it's going to go in reverse order of third to first. I'd pick the Rays first at this moment. I'd pick the Yankees second, and I would pick the Jays third.
You know what? It's funny. I want to pick the Rays so badly, but the fact that they have 0 home field advantage, really, I have a hard time with it. Because I do think the Rays are probably the best team as of right now, but I can't pick them because they don't. Like, I want to, but I can't because they don't have home field advantage. The Sox are back. I mean, Sox are 3 games back of the Yanks, 6 games back of the Blue Jays, getting Bregman back. Rafaela has been unbelievable.
Great. He actually, when we're talking about all-star snubs, is right there with all the other guys in the AL
He's
too.
been great.
Like, you can,
he can play center.
I know I mentioned him yesterday in a clip on social media, Bellinger, for the All-Star game, but like that was just guys with better stats than J-Rod. But the Yankee fans that are saying Bellinger should have been an All-Star, like, you're way off. Cody Bellinger should not have been in the All-Star game because there are 3 or 4 guys in the AL, Springer, Joe Adell, Rafaela included. Springer's the guy. There are a group of players that should have been in over J-Rod and Bellinger if he was to get it.
Yeah, but Bellinger should have obviously been in over J-Rod. I mean, again, he's not number 1 on the list. I get it, but
yeah. But what do you think
J-Rod's
about the J-Rod thing too? With like, I got a lot of comments on that. How about you look at his WAR and his defensive run saved? But I understand defense matters, and I understand that J-Rod's one of the best in the league, but he got a sub 700 OPS, man. Like, nobody is trading, including the Mariners. Nobody wants J-Rod's season instead of Springer's on their team. Nobody.
I've been having wars with friends about defense and WAR and this and that for the past week now, basically. And yeah, 100%. I mean, first of all, you're watching the All-Star game. You watch it for offense and firepower. Yeah. You're not watching because J-Rod saves, 6 runs and it has 6 outs above average. Nobody's watching for that. So Springer's been the better player, should have been in. It's the same argument we talk about Soto. He's one of the 5-6 best hitters in the sport statistically right now. I mean, so it's like those guys aren't in the All-Star game, but we're going to pick others like J-Rod here because his defense is great. I don't give a rat's ass. I really don't.
His defense is great. Nobody in Toronto is sitting there saying, God, Springer has been such a defensive liability. And even with Soto, Soto's been such a defensive liability. The Mets fans are not saying that.
You know what's funny? And like every stat, you look at every stat, they tell you he's literally the worst outfielder in baseball. And when I watch him on a nightly basis, I don't think that. Like, I don't think he's great. I don't think he's great by any means. I don't really think he's that good. But he's certainly not the worst outfielder I've ever seen in my life. Like, I can watch Mark Vientos play third base and tell you that guy sucks at third base. That guy has no clue what he's doing at third base. And when the ball is hit to him, I freeze because I don't know what the hell's going to happen. But with Soto, I don't feel that way.
Just got to bring up my boy again, too. That was the thing with Jeter. That's what pisses me off with Jeter. Like, his defensive run saved is so low because he played slightly below average metrically for 20 years at shortstop. You don't get to play 20 years at shortstop if everybody's complaining every week that you're the worst defensive shortstop in the league, because he wasn't. Like, to call him the worst defensive shortstop of all time is really a bit. Like, you could say he's not one of the elites. You could say he was even not even above average. Like, fine. To say, like, I've watched multiple Yankee shortstops who are worse defenders than Derek Jeter. Gleyber Torres was. He just didn't play enough games to accumulate minus 200 defensive runs saved. That's just my problem, and that's a macro example of why defensive runs saved and why outs above average and everything are like, sometimes you just got to watch it every day and actually make the assessment for yourself.
Are you fully recovered, by the way, from last week?
No, that was insane.
I would go back during the day, like every hour, and rewatch the video.
I'll never recover from that.
And I would be crying laughing.
Never recover from that.
Hour after hour after hour, I would go back and watch and cry of laughter.
And that was just brutal stuff. Anthony Volpe over the last 2 months has been abysmal defensively. Abysmal.
Yeah, I know.
So bad.
It's terrible.
Like, you never hear my dad or anyone who watched every Jeter game be like, yeah, sucked at defense. Nobody says that.
Well, he did make a couple overrated plays, like the flip. I could have done that.
Flip, you would have flipped on the flip. You could not have done that.
I could easily catch the ball in fair territory and then sprint into the stands.
That one valid.
I could easily do that.
I think the flip.
No,
then we're done with this conversation.
The flip is great.
The big thing with the flip is he was in the right spot.
He's Derek Jeter. He's always in the right spot.
He's Derek Jeter. He was always in the right spot.
Exactly.
He's always in the right spot.
Always in the right spot. Had great teammates around him, a great manager. What else? He ended up getting A-Rod next to him. Always in the right spot.
Always in the right spot. Last thing I want to talk about with the Yankees, and then we'll get into the Mets, is trade deadline. We mentioned a couple guys already. Ryan McMahon. We mentioned Brian Hayes. But what about a little bit of selling at the deadline for the Yankees while also buying? I'm not saying they have to be sellers, but should they get rid of Trent Grisham? Should they get rid of Devin Williams? Maybe Paul Goldschmidt too. That name's been thrown out there. Do you think the Yankees should be getting rid of any of these guys? Because you're looking at all three of them and saying there's no way they're on our team next year. And in the case of two of them, in Grisham and Goldschmidt, you do have two players who are young and somewhat productive this year who you could say they're on the squad next year. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't make it as a sell. I think if there's, a team like the Harrison Bader trade, right? Like the Jordan Montgomery Harrison Bader trade. If there's a team that's in need of a first baseman and they're willing to give you a reliever, great. Something like that. I think I would try and move a Grisham or a Goldschmidt like that. But in terms of like what they're going to buy, did you see the New York Post this morning?
Yes, I did see the back.
I got like a list of 4 things. I mean, like a righty outfielder, arms, a third baseman. I'm like,
yeah, it's multiple starting pitchers, multiple relief pitchers, capable third baseman, right-handed hitting outfielder.
What the hell do they need a right-handed hitting outfielder for?
I think they could use a right-handed bench bat, like a Darren Ruff type of guy.
Go get Darren. He's probably available.
He's definitely available. But like one of those guys at the deadline, who are the platoon right-handed hitters that you could find. I think they could go for one of those guys.
How about Vogelback? You want a lefty?
Nope, don't want a lefty. Don't want Vogelback.
Okay. He gets on base.
Yeah, well, what is this, Moneyball?
It was in 2022 with the Mets.
Yeah, that worked. Worked out great. But yeah, I think that they should be fielding for the best offer on Grisham. I don't know if I'd trade Williams. I don't think you're going to get anything for him. And I think the upside of keeping him for the rest of the year is better than whatever you're going to get in. Yeah,
100%. You got to keep Williams. Grisham, if you could find a partner, I would still be a little weary on trading Grisham. I love his defense, and the offense isn't where it was. But
Sunday's one of those games that Dominguez had a bad weekend too defensively.
He's awful.
And he's terrible on left.
He's awful.
Sunday was one of those games where you saw, Boone won't get the flowers for it, but Grisham, Bellinger, Judge, if that's not the outfield, they do not win the game.
Right. Yeah.
So, Dominguez is putting him in left field all year. In theory, it's great. Let's give the young kid run. Let's see what he's got. you will lose games because he's in left.
He is. He made a couple of plays this weekend that just stand out. The one with Nimmo in the first game of the first inning, ball's hit right at him, and he misjudges it, goes over his head. There was the one that I think Marte or Nimmo hitting the left, and he can't cut it off, and it's a double instead of a single. It's incredible.
And even the Bellinger double play on Sunday, if Dominguez is in left, it's it's just a single at least.
No, that ball might be at the wall.
But I think he probably just plays behind it and takes it on the hop,
right,
and concedes the single because
second, nobody out, Alonso's up.
Yeah, exactly. And then what happens from there? Instead of 2 outs, no one on. So those are the differences too that you won't even rip a guy for, but you have to acknowledge you're not getting elite defense from this guy at all. You're not.
And you look at this stat here, right? And this is why, like, when you look at these defensive stats sometimes, I'm confused because, like, yes, I understand, like, Soto is not a great defensive outfielder, but I watched Dominguez, and I've seen Dominguez make plays in left field, and I'm like, that guy is one of the worst defensive players in the league, and he doesn't show up on those stats. That's why I'm confused.
Also, the stats are all accumulation. The numbers become accumulated over the amount of times you play there. Jason Dominguez is not a worse outfielder than Juan Soto. I've watched both now for the same amount of time on the Yankees. It's not like I'm watching the Mets once a week. I've watched Soto way more than I've watched Dominguez, even because he's played way more games. He's definitely a worse outfielder than Soto. But that's not going to show up statistically.
It's interesting.
It is. I think I'm good on the Yankees here, though.
Yeah. Yanks might be back.
Yanks are definitely back. But Mets, when we're talking about back, we're talking Mets here.
Yeah, definitely back. Definitely back. Willing to say it.
Yep, definitely back. 4 of their last 5 games, won. They're winning the division now, cheating at home.
Insane.
Everything feels great. Like they're locked to win this division, according to you before the show.
The Spike Eskin.
Yeah, let's just start with this.
Mets are cheating at home. You have it up?
I don't have the video, but I have so Spike Eskin, WIP, does the afternoon show, says someone should look into the Mets home road splits. They're 33-14 at home. They're 19-25 on the road. And he goes a little deeper into it and basically says the only teams to ever have that winning percentage disparity throughout a season are the Rockies, the Twins, and there's 1 year that the Cubs had it. And he's just saying that it's very unusual because the Rockies and Twins, you can kind of figure out why, but the Mets, you can't. And throughout their history, this is not a trend at Citi Field in any season. So he says the Mets might be cheating. Obviously a Philly guy. My thought on it, when I see those stats, because I wanted to bring it up last week and I didn't, is I'm just curious. I don't think they're cheating at all. But why are they struggling so badly on the road?
I don't know why they're struggling badly on the road. I'll say that their attendance has been the best that it's been probably in Citi Field's history this season, and I think that has absolutely something to do with the fact that they're playing so well at home. But yeah, usually it's very close, and there have been years where they were better on the road, but go back to last season, late in the year too, the oh my God Grimace stuff, when people started showing up, they were playing very well at Citi Field. So I just think it's the home field advantage. It's a great home field advantage. And I know the Philly fan likes to pride themselves on their home field advantage and Red October and this and that, but they were introduced to what a playoff atmosphere is like at Citi Field last year. And, you know, Big Brother gave you a little spank in there. So I think they're just a little jealous. That's what I think it is.
Absolutely possible. I'm trying to find right now their pitching splits home and away to see if there's a big difference there. But they just it is weird to look at it. And again, I don't think the Mets are cheating at all. It's odd to look at 33-14 at home, which is such a great home record. It's the best home record in baseball, and 19-25 on the road, which is the road record of a 4th or 5th place team.
Right. Did you find the stat check? Because I think I could pull it up.
Yeah, you pull it up because I'm only getting the offensive splits.
Yeah.
And the
Let me see if I
offensive
can find it.
splits, home and road, don't indicate cheating because everything's within 20 or 30 points of each other in average on base, slug, OPS. The OPS is the largest gap, and it's 755 at home, 729 on the road. I'd imagine 26-point difference in OPS isn't out of this world. Home road in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I actually don't think I could find it. Probably can't find it.
I just can't find their pitching. I'm only getting their offense.
Yeah.
But either way, so there's
I'm actually about to have it.
about to have it.
I think so. All right, their home ERA is 3.10 and their away ERA is 4.08.
So there's the difference.
Their full run, basically a full run more on the road than they are.
And
away.
I think if a team was cheating, it would show up in the offensive stats, and here it's not.
And when you think about, just the way Citi Field is built to pitcher's ballpark, and you have that right there. So that's just showing up the way it should be.
Yeah, so debunked right away, not cheating.
Debunked.
Definitely not cheating.
LeBron, debunked.
And then the top reply on that Spike Eskin video is, and I actually like Spike, met him twice, very good to me both times. And he, in the top reply, it says 56%. It's just a straight Google search screenshot.
Yes.
56% of Philadelphians are somewhat illiterate. And then it's all these stats about their literacy problems in the city.
I've met Spike too. He's a nice guy. I'm not gonna go.
Nice guy. He's definitely literate.
Yeah.
Definitely very smart.
I mean, he made a couple of hires at FAN. Then I was like, but yeah, liter, yeah. Sure.
And the show is solid. The afternoon show there is solid at WIP.
Yes, it is.
So.
I listen when they lose games.
You're one of their best listeners.
I am one of their best listeners. This Alexa right here that I may have just set off. I don't know if you can see it. I can't because the wire's tight. They play WIP a lot there.
Well, that's good stuff. That's not cheating. Mendy would never cheat. He's a Boone disciple. They don't know how to cheat to win. And the Mets pick up the 2 wins this weekend. Good 2 wins. We'll get to Soto, who'd you rather in a little bit. But Mets bullpen is a mess too, Mike. And I'm watching this entire series this weekend, and I'm really saying, as long as Diaz wasn't on the mound, I thought the Yankees had a shot. In any inning that he wasn't on the mound.
It's funny. I felt like any other guy they brought in, the Yankees, I felt like the Mets had a shot. Stanek has been okay lately. Garrett had the big outing on Friday, and Brazaban has been the past couple of weeks there. But that's it. I mean, anybody else you brought into the game there, you thought you had 100%. I would have thought I had a chance if I was a Yankees fan. You're missing Buteau. You're missing a couple of other guys. Kranick's been hurt. They're just decimated by injury right now, not only with their starters, but with their bullpen. Now you're getting guys back. Kodai Senga should be making a start on Friday in Kansas City. I mean, as long as his bullpen session goes well today, he's going to be making a start. Shaw Mania is making one last rehab assignment today. He may be back this weekend as well. Reinforcements are on the way. Jesse Winker will be active tonight. Guys are back. You're feeling good. And now, as you get into the All-Star break and you come out of it, you'll start to see exactly what you need from this trading deadline here.
Well, this weekend, too, the Mets had the most guys on the IL in the entire league.
Yep.
No team in baseball had more players in the IL. I think they had 16 or 17 players on it. And you're starting to see those guys come back. Winker has been a massive loss since they lost him. We've spoken about the bottom 5 in the order. Now it's really more so the bottom 4 in the order is problematic because you have Nimmo and McNeil hitting. Well, no, Beatty's still in the bottom 4, and I'm still counting him as problematic most of the time.
stock's rising.
Winker's a big add back because that DH spot has just been totally vacant for the Mets all year, and that extra outfielder has been, and now you finally get him back. He was one of those energizers for him last season down the stretch too. But Mets need these pitchers back bad. They need Senga and Manaea back, and they need to see these guys make good progress before the trade deadline, which is now 3 weeks away.
That's the biggest thing. That's your biggest worry, because if Manaea shows you something before the trading deadline and you're like, oh, he's back, and then all of a sudden after the All-Star break he stinks, then you got a real problem. So
the timing is actually awful.
You love that they're back, but yeah, the timing is, in that sense, yes.
The timing it stinks. You wish you would have gotten him back 2 or 3 weeks ago, or maybe a week or two after the deadline, just so that Stearns would have said, let's make sure we get an extra guy.
Yep.
Because now he rightfully is not going to pursue an extra arm than what he already has in mind with Manaea and Senga coming back. I don't blame him for that at all. I won't blame him for that if it goes wrong in the second half, but absolutely could end up in a scenario where 2 weeks after the deadline, Manaea gave you 3 or 4 starts and he's back to shut down, or he's only able to give you 4 or 5 innings and he's really struggling. So it wouldn't be a huge shock if that went wrong for the Mets. I just hate the timing of it. You wish they got a little more run before the trade deadline, but they're not going to, and you're happy to get him back, as you said.
And I'm not worried about Senga either. I think Senga off of a hamstring will be just fine,
Yep. No, I'm
not really concerned. I mean, I'm just concerned about like other injury, with him.
Yes.
But
you think he's probably recovered from this one.
Performance-wise, I think he'll be right back to where he was.
And then you also have a little bit of an evaluation period here with the other guys in the rotation who haven't been as great over the last month as they were the first 2 months of the season. But there's a big evaluation period for starting pitchers for David Stearns in these next couple of weeks, because I'm just looking at the Mets, I'm looking at the NL, and I think with the prospects the Mets have and with the players they have and the unlimited budget, I don't think that this is a year to go easy at the deadline. I think Stearns has to be ultra aggressive at the deadline and try and get the best players he can get at every need.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, one big trade is necessary wherever he feels that it is, but I don't think he needs to sell the farm here and go after a World Series title. I think you're playing for the long haul. You've built up enough young position players and pitchers as well in the farm system where, you should be able to bring some of these guys up at some point and then also trade a couple of these guys as well. I think he's setting the organization up in a really good spot, but I would not sell the farm for this specific season. I wouldn't do that.
I've seen Mets fans starting to clamor a little bit, and I don't think it's a large percentage of them, but for Suarez, do you have any interest there in Suarez being the big fish the Mets got?
No, I think you have enough guys that could play third base right now where you would get enough. I think center field, if you're going to upgrade a position, it's going to have to be center field. I just hate to get rid of the defense you get with Taylor, but, I think offensively he's been so bad. You need to do something to get a center fielder.
And there's guys available that could give you good defense. And, Byron Buxton.
Yeah, if he's available. I got screamed at by a Twins fan on Twitter, actually.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Saw that. They flipped out. They were like, don't Met fans do any research.
Like, you're 4 games under 500 right now.
He doesn't want to come to New York. Oh, you talked to him on the phone? You called him up and you were like, oh, yeah, I don't want to go to New York. Okay.
Mauricio looks great at third base. Do you think Mauricio gets sent down with Winker?
No, they just announced he's not.
Okay.
He's been good the past couple of days. Last week now or so. He's staying up. It'll be Jankowski that goes down.
Okay.
Or Marte to the IL if his knee is bothering him still from yesterday or Sunday.
But Mauricio did look good. You're starting to see flashes of the guy that you were supposed to see and that we kind of saw 2 years ago. Starting to see those flashes come back. Now, Vientos is such an odd man out, Mike. Like, we're at the point here where the last 2-3 weeks we've been saying these things, but he is such an odd man out with these young guys because Beatty's definitely better, and Mauricio looks better the last week.
Yeah, Vientos has just been so bad. It's kind of concerning. Now, you knew his sophomore slump was certainly possible. I mean, this was really his sophomore year here, but he's been so bad. He's giving you nothing at the plate. He gives you nothing defensively. I don't really know what you do, but I think you just kind of got to ride this out. I mean, we saw Corbin Carroll last year, and I don't want to compare the two because Carroll's an MVP candidate, and certainly I don't think Vientos will ever be one. But, Corbin Carroll had a big-time sophomore slump last year, and towards the second half, he really started to figure it out. So I think patience is a big thing. I'm certainly not giving up on him in terms of trading him unless it's for a big, big piece. But I think you just got to keep riding.
Yeah, and now with Winker back, it's tough to get Vientos into the lineup every night because he's not the best third baseman on your team, and he's a liability defensively at third base. But you want Winker in the DH spot now.
And Marte's been good offensively too.
Marte looked good. We could not have been more wrong on him the first 6 weeks of the year because he did look completely shot. And I've always been a big fan of Marte's game. I wanted the Yankees to sign him a few years ago. When people said the Mets overpaid with or gave him too many years, I thought they were wrong in that he's just a really good winning baseball player throughout his career. But we thought he was shot in the beginning of the season. And he looked it, and that's not the case.
No, it's not. He's been productive for them, especially the last month or so. He's been big time. Like last month and a half, he's been a very productive player. But I think with Vientos, you're going to get him at third. There's ways to get other guys in the lineup. There's ways to get Beatty in the lineup. And I think when you have Vientos DH and Winker's down, that'll also be a way to get Vientos' bat in the lineup.
Yeah, it definitely will be. They're gonna have to try and get him going a little bit. I definitely wouldn't trade him though. I think you're spot on there. What else do we have? Mets here.
Soto snubbed.
Yeah, and then we'll get into the who'd you rather on Soto.
Yeah.
No Pete in the Derby either. Those are our Mets All-Star weekend.
Yeah, that's all Boris, but I'm good.
Yeah,
no need to mess anything up.
And like the home run derby, it just hasn't been what it used to be the last few years. Not to sound like a total boomer.
I've been into it. I love it.
I'm gonna be into it this year. I want to see Raleigh hit. I want to see if he hits switch. I want to see if he only hits lefty. Like, what does he do? I want to see Acuna. But the fact that you don't get Alonso and Judge in it anymore, or even a guy like Stanton, like those were the great home run derbies 7-8 years ago. And I get why Judge doesn't do it because he just hit such a bad slump after he did it in 2017.
Yeah.
Those derbies with the actual big-time sluggers were just epic.
I'll tell you what, it's the greatest gambling event baseball has.
That's actually fair.
It is the greatest gambling event baseball has because you get bet on the total number of home runs. You're going to go over, obviously. The distance, you'll go over. And then you pick a winner. And it's just a lot of fun to sit there with your buddies, drink some beers, and watch the freaking derby. It's unreal.
Who is it? Is it finalized the field yet? Because I know Byron B. Buxton's in it.
Byron B. Buxton's in, Acuna's in, Riley's in. Forget who else.
James Wood's in also.
My guy James Wood.
That's it.
Yes, we need 4 more.
Need 4 more. It's gonna be a good derby. I'm excited to watch Acuna there.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Acuna, Riley, like you said. It'll be good. Wood.
Yeah, and then Soto not in the All-Star game is terrible.
I mean, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the league that one of the great generational hitters, generational talents, I think the 6th or 7th best hitter in terms of WRC plus this season is not in the All-Star game. I mean,
doing the most right now.
It is embarrassing.
But this is one of my moments for my anti-New York agenda. Is I think this is anti-New York.
Oh yeah, it's disgusting.
Everyone likes to talk about New York bias, but the rest of the fans in baseball have had it placed in their mind that Soto is not having a good year, that he's been a bust for the Mets. If you were just voting on the ballot and you saw his name, which is one of the biggest in baseball, and his numbers playing in Washington, you would have thrown him a vote.
I mean, it's just like you look at, how about OPS plus, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the leaders. Judge, obviously.
Best player.
Riley, Smith, Ohtani. Michael Busch, who actually did not make it. Shocking.
Yep,
Fifth.
first base, Michael Busch. Yep.
James Wood. Pete Alonso. Juan Soto. Kyle Tucker. Kyle Schwarber. Like, I don't like, these are the best hitters in the sport. How are they not in the, like, how is Soto not in the All-Star game? It doesn't make any sense to me. 0 cents. Tatis is in? Tatis? Are you kidding me?
And Soto's a big enough name to where it's not like, Joe Adell didn't make the All-Star game. Like, it's not one of those.
Nobody's crying about that.
Soto's one of the biggest figures in all of baseball, and he's one of the most exciting players in all of baseball.
And I tweeted this yesterday. It's not even like I'm pissed Tatis got in over him. Like, whatever. Carroll, not so much. Carroll was hurt, but Carroll's a great player and deserves it. Like, it's not that like Tatis is in over him. It's a Kyle Stowers has to be represented. You have to represent the Marlins, and you got to get Kyle Stowers in there. That's a real big issue here.
It's awful. And Tatis, another guy. Fans want to watch him. He's having a good season. Fans want to watch him play. And that's all there is to it. Soto should have been a big-time snub.
Yeah. Let's do a who would you rather. Let's piss people off right now. That's my goal here. How many people can we piss off with this?
All right. Looking to piss people off. Time for Juan Soto, who'd you rather? Biggest all-star snub. We brought together a couple all-stars here. So Juan Soto, who'd you rather? First name is James Wood.
Yeah. So wait, let me preface this. Is this just for this season or going forward?
I think just right now you're a GM. You
Juan
want one,
Soto.
You could have one player taking Soto.
Juan Soto.
Cal Raleigh.
Juan Soto.
Kyle Tucker.
That's a tough one. Juan Soto.
You know what's interesting about this is I caught a lot of heat in the offseason. Not from you. We actually had agreed on this. About if the Yankees got Tucker, I wouldn't care that they lost Soto because I thought he was probably as close as you could get. I think Soto's, since then, at that moment to now, I still think Soto's incrementally better.
Yeah.
But I think Tucker's right there. And I caught a lot of heat. And it's aging just like that. Tucker is right in that category.
Well, the problem is Tucker has injury history and also, I mean, he's older. And this season, over a full 150 games or so, kind of seems like an outlier. I mean, he had the one in 21 where he was one of the best players in baseball with a 917 OPS. But, like, I still kind of feel like this season is kind of an outlier. It will be in terms of his WAR numbers. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be the best year of his career.
It's going to be, yes, 100%.
And he might give you 6 more all-star level 880 OPS plus seasons. But
yeah.
All right, next name, Ronald Acuna.
Ronald Acuna.
Mookie Betts
Jr. I'll go Juan Soto.
At this point, I think I'd agree with you. I think
Betts not having a good year. It's really sad.
One of the names that were brought up last week in our comments, talking Soto, Bobby Witt.
Yeah, I'm going to take Soto. He's a generational hitter. He's a generational talent. And, Witt is a better overall player, but the offense I'm going to get from Soto, I'm going to take Soto.
How about Will Smith?
I'm going to take Juan Soto. Respectfully to Will Smith, who's a Dream Team member, I'm going to take Juan Soto.
Pete Alonso.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take Juan Soto there.
So that's it. So you only took, tough to bring together 12 names for the Soto, who'd you rather, but out of the 8 guys, you only took Acuna.
Well, I mean,
probably,
it's generational talent.
The only other guys I'd consider
it's Tucker and Witt
were
tough ones.
And I have to see 3 years from now what we're saying about Cal Raleigh. But right now I'm taking Soto. But if this guy actually continues this and has the greatest catcher season of all time while being a good defender and switch hitting, he has a really interesting case this year alone.
Dude, I just saw a fake press release from the Mets that they banned Michael Volpe from Citi Field for life. And I'm like, as you're talking, I'm like, wait, what? It was a joke. Somebody said it to me. Oh, that's crazy. This is crazy, by the way. This is just wild.
I thought you did good with that. James Wood, though, in a year or two, might be one of those guys also.
Yeah, you got to look back. But, like, again, right now,
body of work
who am I taking? Taking Juan.
Body of work's not there right now for Wood.
Generational
on the scene.
Generational talent.
That trade will be looked back at, especially now that he's on the Mets in the division. That trade will be looked back at for just decades. That Nationals Soto
man
trade.
that made it's fired.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Mike Rizzo, Dave Martinez fired. Martinez, I thought writing was on the wall. I don't know what happened internally. I haven't read much about it. Rizzo, I love.
Always loved Rizzo, but I mean, you look at the player development the past few years, and you look at the international signings and stuff like that. They haven't been great, and also, I mean, I just don't understand the timing of it. I mean, you have a draft coming up in a week. You have the number 1 overall pick, and you have a draft in a week. And you also have the trading deadline coming up, which they don't have crazy names that are going to be dealt, but a couple of rentals that'll be moved. That an assistant GM can make those trades. It's not like it's a huge deal, but it's just fascinating. And Rizzo will get a job. It's just fascinating.
Do you think he went down with Martinez? Do you think it was one of those? Dave's my manager, and if he's done, I'm done.
No, I think it was apparently Martinez had a great relationship with the owners. So I think that his comments in June really did him in.
No,
did him in.
Is when you knew at the very least he wouldn't be managing that team in 2026.
And then it was really easy when you decide finally you're going to fire Rizzo. It's probably just super easy to just say, okay, we're going to get rid of Martinez too.
You wonder if behind the scenes ownership had just disagreements with Rizzo about the direction of the team. And
they probably did. I think they also looked at things, especially in the NL East right now, and they're probably looking at the Marlins, who don't spend any money, don't have any big names, but they bring in this Peter Bendix from Tampa Bay, this young kid, analytic nerd, and he's just sitting there, and they're only 8 games under 500, and they're the team that overtook the Braves, who are having this terrible season in the division, and they're the ones making the noise when the Nationals thought they were going to be this team that surprised everybody and took those next steps as this next young great team. They probably thought this was supposed to be us, and we're behind where we are because and I don't believe that they should be here either, but they have the 4th worst record in the sport, and I never thought they would be at this spot. I really did not.
I remembered a few weeks ago when you and Giuseppe did Boroughs, I was out, and you had said the Nationals, when talking about the AL Central, when it comes to the Royals, the Twins, the Guardians, they'll be wild card contenders, which is starting to look less and less true as we go on. But still, you said that at the time when they all were. But a team like the Nationals are way more exciting, have a lot more talent. For them to be 16 games under 500, I don't even think it's a symptom of the NL or the NL East. I just think it's just gross management of this roster so far this year.
It's really funny. After I said that, they ended up losing like 10 straight games and like 15 out of 18.
But it still rings true because those AL Central teams are all 4 games under 500 or worse. So they all stink too. But 16 games under 500 is...
It's insane. You never would have thought they would
be
here. You never would have thought they would be here.
I mean, they're the 2nd worst team in the NL. Only the Rockies are worse. And in the AL, the only team worse is Chicago. They should not be in that category.
Not at all.
Really bad.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked by it.
I will say my first Yankees thought, even though it would never happen, just because our brains go here sometimes, once again admitting this would never, ever happen, Rizzo is one of the few guys I could really be okay with as like a Yankees general manager to replace Brian Cashman.
Look at you, already thinking there.
But they're not going to fire Cashman. And I don't know if Rizzo's even better necessarily, but I just think we mentioned it last week a lot. Sometimes you just need a new voice, and that's Rizzo would be one of those guys that I think
they really need a new voice.
I think they really do too. You know, it's tough to be in a place. You know, how many people can you name in any sport professionally that lasted 25 plus years and still had the same great, track record that they had the first 10 years? Like
right.
25 years.
It's almost impossible.
He's been in the Yankees organization since 1990 or 1991 as a prominent voice, and he's been the GM since 98? That's insane.
It's incredible. And it's time for a new voice.
It's time for a new voice.
It
really is. And I just think he doesn't have that same
big star for Will Warren tonight.
But with Cashman, I just don't think he has that same fire that he probably had when he was younger either. Like, there is a complacency. There's no denying it.
It's just weird how, like, every year there are certain holes on the team that, like, repeat themselves for the last, like, 4 or 5 years now.
It's very frustrating.
That would frustrate the hell out of me.
They haven't had a third baseman since A-Rod.
Chase Headley. I know, it's insane.
Like, you went to Chase Headley, Miguel Andujar, Gio Urshela, Josh Donaldson, IKF.
You threw Chase Headley in there like he was one of the guys they had, like legit third baseman.
Like he was.
Compared to what they've had.
Yeah, I know. It's just gotten worse since. All right, anything else today?
I'm good over here. Big Orioles series coming up for the Mets.
Yeah, good over here too. Yankees big series with Seattle this week as Seattle looks
They can pitch. They can pitch, man.
They can pitch. Of course, 3 straight shutouts. Seattle's going to jump the Yankees this week in the wild card race, which is actually, this has serious implications because Houston's running away with that division.
Yep.
55 wins are the best team in the AL, in my opinion. Second best record in the AL, and they're rolling right now. So they'll only get better throughout the season. That's what Houston does too. All right, wrap it up there. Good at 63 in the books. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You can check it out. If you missed some of the episode, you can listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You could also always rewatch on YouTube. On the live, make sure to subscribe, check out everything BTO Media, No Good Takes, Giuseppe, The Playbook with Gabe on Instagram and TikTok. Hardline Sports Talk is back. All sports. Hardline Sports Talk back with Mike and JM. So we will see you later in the week, probably right here on the Boroughs. Thanks for watching.